OG, man, how are you, buddy? All right. Uh, how you been? How you guys been? For those of you that are watching, for those of you that will watch later, got an unboxing here, and kind of a channel project that I want to talk about coming up. So more on that in a second. Let me turn it down. So yeah, been all right. Everything's cool. I'm on here sporadically, not as much as maybe I was at one time, but other things going on. So now, here's what I have, right? Glue. Why would I need this? As a hint. And should have asked for an intervention before I started this, but trust me, I've been thinking about it for a long time. It was not something I saw a day or two ago and just decided, oh yeah, what the hell? I've been rolling this through my head probably for years. And I finally pulled the trigger on what is probably the beginning of the deepest, darkest black hole I can stick my head into and probably fall through. So that's this thing here, right? So let me bring it down and we'll see what's inside and all that. And there's other unboxings of this, of course, on the YouTubes. This isn't going to be the only one or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. I won't be the first. Probably not going to be the last. Little switchblade here. I don't even remember. My father got me this. You know, of all people, isn't that a great gift? Here, son, have a switchblade. Okay. Use this in the last video. Yeah. Thanks, Dad. So here we go. Let's open this up. And I'll try and explain myself as best I can. Some of you are gonna maybe lose faith in me. Some of you might roll your eyes. Some might shake your head. Some might applaud. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, I suppose. I gotta hide these because the cat will eat them. It's just stupid popcorn things. So yeah, here we go. There it is. The beginning of the end. Black powder, Waterloo. Let's see how many subscribers I lose now. As those of you know, I've been doing the Napoleonic thing off and on for a while. More so lately, fairly heavily. And I've always oohed and awed and marveled at the figures that other people have. So let's see. OG, you're saying something, and you're on the tiny. Let me see if I can pull this. Oh God, not miniatures. No. Yeah. See. Yeah. It's too late, man. It's too late. Can't return this. I'm stuck. It's all over. So. Yeah, no, it's cool. It's all right. It's gonna be fine. This is not something that I've mentioned before with Flames of War. That I kind of lost my mind with the Flames of War stuff. That's all I did. I turned into a factory and just painted and based, and it wasn't fun, but I was addicted, and it was an awful experience. I don't want this to become that. I want this to become a leisurely, go at your own pace thing. No timeline, no reason to rush through this or feel obligated to have this done in a certain amount of time. This is going to be the slow cooker. Nice little black powder rule book. Now here's another thing, right? Here's another draw for this set. Now if you get this rule book in the bigger hardback version, it's like $40, right? Half of what this costs. So there, I've given away the price, but so you might as well get this and some miniatures to boot, right? So I'm not gonna go through the rule book. There's videos for that. I'll spare you the pain and anguish of me going through a black powder rule book. What is this? This is a little thing about Waterloo. And what else do they say? Oh, it's the quick, which I appreciate, the quick start rules. So that would be this. So you can hop right in and start playing. Black powder is I think is to Napoleonics what bolt action is to World War II, and that's not necessarily a compliment, but it's a system that doesn't have a lot of fuss or muss. Now, I wouldn't call it much of a simulation, and another channel has gone as far as to say that black powder is ahistorical. It doesn't really even have anything to do with historic Napoleonics, and that can be argued. I don't know where I stand on that argument, but nevertheless, you know, here it is. It's begun. Now, here's another thing that worries me. I'm not so worried about getting into this and cutting these guys off the sprues, and for the love of God, I don't know why. When I knew I was getting into this, why can't these things be molded into a solid figure? Why do I have to, and I'm not complaining, it's just an observation, it's a question. But why do I have to glue heads and backpacks and arms on? You know, again, we sent a man to the moon, but we can't mold Napoleonic soldiers such that you're forced to glue pieces together. I don't understand, but you know, again, not a big deal. And the whole thing is kind of like a Zen thing. It really is. And you know, people that paint and glue stuff together and build models and play games, it's all a Zen thing, you know. I really believe that. So what am I doing here? I don't know. I'm looking at sprues of guys. These are the late war, well, Waterloo, Napoleonic stuff. So the French are going to look like they have, like greatcoats on and stuff, and some people are all like, why do they look like they're dressed for the winter? There wasn't Waterloo? Yes. Waterloo was a cold, wet, miserable affair weather-wise. Mud everywhere. That's how it was. So look, lots of sprues. I mean, no shortage of sprues in here. Just, I mean, sprues. That is the bulk of what's inside here. Tons of these. I don't know who's what. I might have to go through and determine British from French. Shouldn't be too hard. But a nice pack, you know. I mean, there's a lot in here for the money, honestly. You can buy these packs separate and probably blow an even bigger chunk of change. Here's some infantry, or a cavalry sprue. So, this will be interesting. Now, and again, some metal guys, because, you know, you can't have consistency. You can't have just plastic. You have to make OCD people neurotic by throwing metal in with the plastic. So thank you for that, Warlord. I've got an artillery set that will be metal. And I think that's the only metal thing in here, it looks like. We've got bases. I don't know if I will use these bases. I've got ideas for bases. One of those ideas, probably a horrible one, is a clear plexiglass base, so that whatever tabletop scenery you use, you just see right through the base to the scenery. You don't have to worry about it jiving with the tabletop or clashing. It'll always work with whatever scenery you use, whatever game mat. I don't know that I'll do that. Probably wouldn't work. It would have a glare off of the plastic that would probably make it look not very good. And these, horrible dice, which I just assume they not include dice if they're going to include something like that. But whatever. It's the thought that counts, is it? Anyway, lots of stuff in here. You get a rule book, and you get this, the quick start rules and a little bit of history. So I don't know how much of the, I know Dash of Alon does the painting with Fritz, and my God, the guy seems to just, you know, be a machine. I don't know how much, if any, I will be live streaming or videoing me of doing this stuff. I would assume that most people would rather watch paint dry, as the saying goes, pun intended. And speaking of which, paint drying, now here's the real kicker, right? Most people get miniatures because they want to put them together, they want to paint them, they want to, you know, I'm leaning towards just a functional thing with these guys. And here's where the heresy comes in. I don't know that I'm going to paint these. Now I say that, I probably will at some point. But to be honest with you, I just want to get some guys on the table and play. Now with the Flames of War stuff, I played a little, but it was more about accumulation and painting and basing, and I was all screwed up. I can't stress that enough with that Flames of War crap. I got boxes and boxes of it in there. It was a mess. This I want to do differently. I'm getting this stuff to play. It's functional. The painting thing is secondary. If it happens, fine. If it doesn't, who gives a crap? As long as you can determine who is who. Make the bases, mount them on bases, and use painted blocks or something, you know, whatever. I'm not going to go into a tournament or anything. It's for my own self. I don't know why I'm justifying this. So that's what I got. Yep. So go ahead and send any encouraging or disparaging comments my way. Let me know what horrible mistake I've made with the avenue that I've turned down. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Let me bring you back up here without flinging this camera off into space. Wait, how do we do this? This is the first time I've done this. Misfits. Anybody remember the Misfits? I got 4 albums there and a little Crimson Ghost mask I found for Halloween up there. That's just a mere smidgen of albums, and to further clarify how weird of a person I am, I've got all these albums over there and on the walls. I don't have a record player. No, I used to have a record player, but something happened to it, and I don't have one anymore. But I got all these records, and I keep getting records. But someday, I'll get another record player. Just like someday, I'll be painting these guys. You know, and I've watched painting videos on some of this stuff, and they don't have to look like they're, you know, going to be in a museum. Just so you can distinguish who's what, you know, get the main bits. I think if you do 3 different colors, a minimum, you're probably good. Cheerio. Saturday night, the Blues hockey is going to be on here in about 40 minutes. Probably be going out tonight. So for 19 minutes after 6 o'clock, I guess this is starting kind of early. So I'll have to pace myself there. And now you know what this is for, right? I have to cut these guys and glue these guys and get them on the table. So there's that. The other thing I wanted to mention is, and I'm going to get something to write this down so you guys can know what I'm talking about. The other thing, I've kind of batted around a couple ideas how best to do this. Should I do it live? Should I do it not live? I think I'm going to do it not live. God, it looks like a 5-year-old drew this. All right. All right. So here's what I'm going to show you. It's HS Game. Look at this. hsgames@gmx.com. This is an email address that you will need. It's my email address. That's an email address that you will need because if you are interested as a subscriber, you must be a subscriber. And this isn't a ploy or a trick or anything to get more subscribers or anything else like that. I just prefer you be a subscriber. What I want to know is, and I guess I should, and or will, what is this? This guy's an idiot. You shut up. I think I'm going to post some formal, just to help some people, because they're probably going to need some help. Let me back up. The gist of what I want to do is this. I want to hear from you guys, the subscribers. I'd like to know more about you. I mean, I've got all these people that watch me and for the love of God, listen to me and all that stuff, and that's flattering. But I would like to know about you guys. And some of you, not many, but a few, I'm familiar with. But there are many of you out there, and for those of you that prefer to stay anonymous and hidden in the cracks, I totally get it. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to hold it against you or anything like that. But for those of you that are willing to do so, I and perhaps others, subscribers as well on this channel, would be interested in getting to know you, know what your interests are, what your disinterests are, etc. So things like that. And we'd like to keep it, of course, tailored towards all things games. You could stray a little bit here and there, but that's the gist of it. And like I said, I think maybe at some point, you've got the email address, so start shooting stuff at me. Make sure you put who you are subscriber-wise. I don't need a legitimate first and last name from anybody. But at some point, maybe I'll put some formal questions up there to help steer you guys in the right direction. You know, there's going to be the inevitable generic stuff. What's your favorite game, etc., things like that. But I'm going to try and throw some other things in there to mix it up so it's not quite so generic. So that's what I'm leaning towards with the channel here. And of course, it'll help involve me more with the channel as opposed to just straight unboxings or, whatever. So that's that. And let me know what you guys think about that. Hopefully we get, I've got, I think over 600 subscribers now. So, I mean, even if 10% of you guys send something, I mean, that's decent, I guess. If everybody sends something, I guess it'll be a long show. But again, my intention is to get some feedback from folks. And then what I will do is have a special show that I post here and introduce subscribers and say a little bit about you guys and celebrate you guys. So I think that's about all I got. Anything else new? News? Not much. I mean to sound like a broken record, but if you there are those of you that are out there that are unaware, there is a channel called Hexes and Soldiers on Facebook. That is the sister channel to this YouTube channel. I try and post things fairly regularly and leans towards war game news and things like that. So feel free to head over there and subscribe and like anything you like, share anything you think needs sharing, etc. So there's that. There is something else. And this is unrelated to gaming, but I went and saw The Irishman yesterday. And I don't know if all of you are familiar with what that means is. HSGames, GMX.com. You subscribers, send me stuff. Anyway, The Irishman. Martin Scorsese's latest epic, gangster epic. Of course, Martin Scorsese, known for great films. Casino. I saw that in the theater and liked it so much. It blew me away so much I had to go back and see it again. I was going to college at MU. And I made my roommate go with me the second time. I'm like, you gotta go see this movie. It's just trust me on this. I don't even think I told him anything about it. I'm like, you just gotta go see this movie. What Goodfellas would be another one. He would be perhaps well known for. Oh, okay, so here's Vaughn. Now, we're not doing this right now, Vaughn, and my people from Sweden. I don't speak Swedish, but that is my ancestry, Swedish and German. So, cheers, Vaughn. Send all this feedback to my email address if you would, so I can add you to the list when I formally do this. But cheers, yeah. And then we'll go into that then. So, and don't send me any stuff now. This is not a now thing, live. But direct all of this stuff to the email. But I guess I could answer that. And then I'll come back. What books do you prefer to read? You know, I used to be able to read fiction. I don't know what has happened to me over the years, but my ability to see that, imagine and see that movie play in my mind as I'm reading has deteriorated such that fiction is no longer enjoyable for me. That and the entire anything fantasy has been ruined by Lord of the Rings, because I read those books, and everything I've tried to read since seems like a cheap knockoff of the Lord of the Rings. So there's that. What books do I prefer to read? It would be nonfiction, typically history. I went through a big philosophy thing, and that kind of tapered off, but I guess now it will be mostly history, and specifically Napoleonic or World War II stuff, and then to narrow it down even further, European theater, World War II stuff, and as far as Napoleonics go, anything to do with the Russian invasion, to be honest with you, fascinates me. Now, I like Waterloo a lot, but the Russian stuff, 1812, that really, like I said, it fascinates me. And I'll come back to The Irishman. Sorry, I got sidetracked here. And speaking of which, I can recommend a few books. Now, I haven't read this yet, but The Retreat from Moscow is one that I own. Zamoyski's book, 1812, is often touted as what you want to read, and I don't disagree with that. But you also, bear in mind, you also have this phenomenal, fantastic, wonderful, extravagant, beautiful, lovely book, Russia Against Napoleon. This thing is amazing. It's my favorite, just about my favorite nonfiction book. And then there's 1812, Napoleon's Russia Campaign, just for starters. So yeah, I guess I like the 1812 Napoleon stuff. That said, Yvonne has more questions. Do you like the OSG games on the Napoleonic era? I like them very much. You know, I think, I don't know that I've ever played a bona fide OSG Napoleonic era game, so I don't know that I can comment on that fairly. So there's that. And when I'm looking down here, I'm looking at, so here's the camera with my phone I use here. And then when I'm looking here, I'm looking at the computer screen, which has what people are saying, so I can read. So I don't know why I just explained that, but I did. Cheers, Vaughn. By the way, Vaughn, if I come to Sweden, hook me up with a cheap place to stay, okay? All right, cool. The Irishman. So again, you've got Martin Scorsese, blah, blah, blah. Now here's some things to keep in mind. This movie that just released is 3.5 hours long. And that might be a game breaker for some people. It wasn't for me. I've got a decent attention span still intact. And I kind of like the long, drawn-out stuff. I don't know. It's like epic for me. So there's that. when I got done seeing it, my friend asked because I knew she wouldn't want to see it. Well, how was it? And I said, it's like listening to Grandpa tell you a story, and he's slow, and he takes his time, and he's hard to listen to, but you can't help but continue leaning on every word he says because of the way he says it and what he's telling you. The memories that he pulls up are thick and juicy, and they taste great to your ears. So it's kind of like that. Also, this movie is different from, say, Casino or Goodfellas, where those seem to kind of celebrate violence and the whole mobster ethos, etc. There's a ton of gratuitous excitement, if you will, in those movies. This movie's different. It's not like that. It's not to say it's not exciting. It's exciting in its own way. It definitely builds tension in its own way. But it seems like if you can take, and here's something else that I had said, if you can take those movies and kind of reference those as like the night before, you're having fun, you're drinking, etc. And this is probably a terrible analogy. But then you have the next day where you're hungover, right? And it's that hangover, that realization of processing the night before and sitting there feeling kind of just, I don't know, like you're being smacked with reality. Seems to be what The Irishman, the effect The Irishman has. It's kind of the hangover after the gratuitous mobster stuff. It also seems to speak upon mortality, and I feel like Scorsese has injected his dealing with mortality into this movie. And I also feel like Joe Pesci, I don't know if this was written in such a way that maybe he would specifically benefit from this role, but I do feel like Pesci also is wrestling with and coming to terms with his own mortality in life, in real life, as an actor. He's not going to be around forever. He's getting old. De Niro's in there. He's getting older. These folks are not going to be with us forever. And there's that air, right, throughout the whole movie of it's the end of an era, and then deals with Jimmy Hoffa, and there's a lot of Jimmy Hoffa in this thing, and a lot of us, me included, are limited in our knowledge about Hoffa, A, because of our age, or B, because we were never really that interested. But he was a very pivotal figure during that time, and an extremely powerful figure. So go see The Irishman. I don't know if I've done it any justice speaking upon it, but it had an effect on me, and I'm still processing the thing. And I think over the coming days, I will have even more insight into what's going on with this movie, because there's a lot there, and it's not just because it's 3.5 hours long, but it's because of it's showing us something that we're maybe used to, but from a different angle that we're not used to seeing it from. So it's clever. It's good. It's at times demanding because it moves at a pace that is perhaps not consistent with the pace that most conventional movies move at. So I've said enough about it. I enjoyed it. The Irishman, go see it. It's a cool movie. Yeah. All right, a couple more things here from Vaughn. Ever been to Russia? I did last year. Very interesting. Try if you can. I would love to go to Russia. There's other places I'd like to go first. The only places I've been out of this country was a cruise, and we got to go to Mexico, and then we got to go to some of the islands. I don't remember what they were. And then I got to go to Jamaica. Jamaica was cool. I was only there for a day, but it was cool. I don't know if I told this story. I don't know when or why I would have, but on that cruise, the first thing they told us is don't go off alone. When we get to port, don't go off alone. So I went off alone, and I got a cab, and it was probably a stupid move on my part, but I was a dumb kid, thought I knew better. And this is not a bad story, nothing bad happened. But something bad could have happened. That was a dumb move. So for you kids at home watching and you find yourself in Jamaica, don't go off alone. Go with a parent or a guardian or a loved one. Play it safe. Got a cab ride to I don't know where, and the guy was driving me around, and I guess he realized, not hard to figure out, I'm a tourist, and he's showing me different sites. And then he pulls over and picks up his friends, and they all get in, and they're all very polite, kind, nice. We stopped at a few places and got out, and they would open the door for me and shut the door for me. As, like I said, very respectful. And they took me to a dance. I don't want to call it a strip club, although that's probably a better term for it. But it was more like a dance thing, and was approached by a lady, and she asked what I like, and I said I'll just watch if that's all the same to you. And we didn't stay all that long, which was fine. And then we went to some recording studio. I don't know if it was a famous recording studio where Bob Marley recorded or anything like that, but went to a recording studio. They took me up on this huge hill, and we overlooked the Fern Gully, and they're like, there's your cruise ship over there. And that was very scenic and delightful. And then when we got towards the end of the day, they drove me back to the cruise ship, or the cab driver rather. He had dropped his friends off, and he stopped short of the cruise ship, a significant distance. And I thought that was odd. And he knew that I had Jamaican money left over. And he turned around to me and he says, what are you going to do with the rest of that money? And I said, give it to you. He said, good job. So I gave it to him. It wasn't that much. I think it was probably amounted to maybe $20 American. And why make risk anything over $20? I don't know if he was insinuating anything or not, but it's all yours, buddy. And he said, took me to the rest of the way to the cruise ship. So that was interesting. I think we use the word interesting too much in this culture, so I take that back. It was memorable. Let's see. So no, I've never been to Russia. There's other places I'd like to go. I'd like to go to Sweden. I'd like to go any Scandinavian country, Finland, Norway. I know there's a lot of problems in that area right now because of refugees, and I won't go into it because I don't want to get political. But I know it's affecting you guys, and I'll leave it at that. Let's see, you ever tried the Avalon Hill War and Peace? Yes, great game. McLaughlin, great guy. I got it and liked it, as you should. And in fact, I liked that game so much. That was one of the first games that I tinkered with, which became a known obsession of mine now. Is I guess you could call me the Frankenstein of war games. I'm piecing together a game from this game and that game and that game and compiling it into one monster thing. But yeah, that game is fun. It's great. It's not hard to play. And I would recommend it. I would say it's aged well. It's obviously not a newer game. It's from back in the day, Avalon Hill. But yeah, good call. I liked that game. I enjoyed it. Vaughn says, Warren, sorry guys, I think this is now a me and Vaughn conversation. Vaughn says, War and Peace was my first favorite game of all time. Oh, all right, first favorite game of all time. Let me go way back. I would say, what would I say? I really liked, Risk and Stratego, but Risk always seemed like it lacked a certain amount of strategy. It really seemed to rely too much on chance for me. So maybe not that. I think it was just the old squad leader game. Those scenarios when you play them, they feel cinematic. They feel like little tiny movies that you're playing. You know, and they tie it into history. You feel like you're playing a little segment of history. The rule book was fantastic. You only learn so much to play up to a certain point, and then you graduate to the next level, learn a little more. The rule book's phenomenal. I always liked tactical. It seems more, and I've said this 1,000 times, more personal, and I can relate to it better. And not so scoped out. And that's how I came to ASL. You know, I know I'm not that old. I'm 46, but they didn't have the starter kits when I was learning this stuff. And that's how I came to ASL, was through squad leader. I had already learned the bulk of it, and then you just have to unlearn some stuff and sink your teeth into the heavier, thicker, deeper stuff that ASL presents. Strategic or tactical? Yeah, I just said that. Tactical is for, I don't know why, really, but I've always liked tactical better than strategic. I guess I do know why. And I've already said this. I feel too alienated from what I'm doing. I feel too estranged from the strategic stuff. Not that I won't ever play it. I do, and I will. But I prefer tactical because I feel connected to it, right? So okay, hey who? I'll stick around a little bit longer, just because I got nothing better to do at the moment. It's not like I have 1,000 miniatures I need to cut and paint and glue, and 500 games that I need to play. But other than that, yeah, game hasn't started yet. So anybody else that has anything they'd like to say while I'm here? Oh, here's somebody else. Now, how do I say this, good sir? Deck B? DECB. DCB. AJ, I was lucky to visit Waterloo recently. Have you visited any historical battlefield sites? Now, man, I would ask, when did you visit Waterloo? Because I know that big historical centennial or something or other was recently, and they had a reenactment stuff. That would have been awesome, and I fantasized about going 100 DC, 100. I don't know. I'm sorry, sir. 100 Deck B, 100 DCB. It's the guy's handle on YouTube there. Did the kids say handle? Okay, I'm fired. Have I visited any historical battlefield sites? Not that I know of. Now, it's highly possible that I have been somewhere and walked upon hallowed ground that folks have lost their lives upon. I wouldn't know it because it wasn't a place that I was specifically under the impression that such and such battle was fought here, etc. So no, and the answer to that question is no. I would love to go visit Waterloo. My brother kicked around the idea, and it never came to be anything other than just an idea. But they have those package trip deals through various organizations. I think there's one through the World War II History Museum. Package deal, you can go to France and see Normandy, and then you will spend a night in Normandy, and then you can go to Belgium and see, hot spots that comprise Battle of the Bulge, etc. That would be perhaps appealing and interesting, but I have to say, I think maybe as much history as there, and as much as I would like it, I think I'd rather see like where Austerlitz was fought and where Waterloo was fought, and I don't know. My theory most recently is I was a a Napoleonic soldier. Now I don't know. I guess that would have to be either Russian or French, maybe, because of my affinity for the 1812 campaign. But I think that explains this otherwise unexplainable affection for the Napoleonic stuff. Because on paper it doesn't make sense that I would like this, but I'm in fact infatuated with it officially. So, yeah. Sponsored by Heineken. When you can't have Guinness, Heineken. Vaughn works in a bookstore, and that's something we could use this, I guess, as a test for what I'm hoping you guys will offer up and these emails to me, so I can share your lives, your secrets with the rest of the world. Vaughn, as it seems, works in a bookstore. I worked, sir, at at least 3 bookstores, and then spent 13 years of my life I can never get back at a horrible fascistic textbook factory. I'll go ahead and say it, MBS, that place was awful. Now, there were a few people there that made it tolerable, but the place itself and the way it's structured, it was maybe a little better than a work camp. It was terrible. But spent 13 years there, man, stuck it out. I guess that's it. And I work at a library now, so not a bookstore, but books. I've always been around books my whole life, as long as I can remember. I mean, even as a kid and being so young, you're not allowed to wake up and climb out of the crib and wander the house alone. Does anybody else have memories like that? But my crib was stocked with books, and I think that's where it started. Everybody I was around always read, so it just seemed natural. And oh my God, I've got so many books in storage. I mean, when I say so many, I don't know what to do with them. Like, it's bad. Like, so many books. I could never bring them down here to New Orleans. That's how many. It's just too many. And let's see, 100 decibels. I'm calling you 100 decibels. Mouse mover and a button clicker, IT. You guys get paid. I'm so jealous of you guys. Not that you don't do anything, you do plenty. But our IT department gets lavishly compensated for what they do. And I just wish you folks in IT had to deal with some of the stuff that us folks upstairs, the IT department at the library, they hang out in the bunker in the basement, and they're always checking out movies so they can go down there and watch their movies while we deal with the patrons upstairs. And my God, the stuff we have to deal with. But I'm sure you guys in IT also have your share of stuff that you have to deal with. And is the computer turned on? Have you tried logging out and logging back in? Yeah, I get it, I understand. Vaughn, you speak very good English. Never felt like, and I'm not trying to be funny, I don't know any other language. I used to know Hebrew. I took 4 semesters of Hebrew. But I would imagine talking to somebody real time who's speaking Swedish and replying in Swedish. If my life depended on it, I would have died 10 minutes ago. And Vaughn says, you ready for this? Ever felt like maybe I might want to write a book on the Napoleonic times? Something different, the best song that makes you feel great in the morning. Okay, now we're going all over the place here. We're all over the map. Now, I'm not sure, Vaughn, if you mean you've considered writing a book on the Napoleonic times. I'm going to assume that's what you mean. Or have I considered writing a book? No, I haven't considered writing a book on anything historical, much less Napoleonic times, because I'm not qualified to do so, although my idea for a book, should somebody hold a knife to my throat and say, write a book, an historical book, it would be the history of the Ardennes forest, and go back as far as you could with accurate records existing, and explain the existence of the Ardennes forest all the way back through, I don't know, however far back you can go, and then work your way up through the Romans and the Germans, and then on through all the way up through World War One and World War Two, and anything and everything that happened and took place in the Ardennes forest. Well, write about it. Is there already a book like that? I don't think so. It would just be a history of the Ardennes forest. I think that would be great. Again, not qualified to write it, so it wouldn't be me that's writing it. But anybody out there that needs a grant proposal, there you go. An article on Napoleonic Games. Bond says I should consider writing an article on that. And I must say, this is probably riveting YouTube TV for you guys here Saturday night, me and Vaughn and 100 Decibels here conversing. But anyway, you should consider at least writing an article on Napoleonic Games. Yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe. I'm just not qualified, I don't think. I enjoy playing the games. I've read what I've read, but it's not near, listen to the Napoleon Bonaparte podcast. That's what it is. I've touted this podcast before. It is the most enjoyable podcast. I learned so much. It was like going to class, but it didn't feel like class. The two gentlemen that run the show have a great, rapport with each other. And I think I've already talked about this as well, but the Napoleon Bonaparte podcast is some good stuff. We'll just stick it out here till 7, a few more minutes, and then I'm switching to the hockey stuff and the this stuff and the this stuff and the getting ready to go out stuff. So, well, one of the highlights of living in New Orleans is there's always something to do here. Always something to do. And I didn't do so much until relatively recently, and that's my fault. The lady friend that I moved here for and lived with, if you were to ask her, I was rather reserved and hermetic, so I'm half forced and voluntarily trying to break that shell, that comfort shell, and get out there and explore things. I mean, it's slowly working for me. I'm meeting people and hanging out with people and finding new places I like to go. And a shout out. I'm glad I thought of this. Has no relevance necessarily to anything, but I'm gonna give a shout out to Callendale. He will probably never watch this, or probably doesn't know I exist. It doesn't matter. I don't hinge on his acknowledgement, but sometimes, and it's been a long time since I watched a Callendale video other than his gaming stuff, because it's there's only so much self-psychoanalysis I can endure. But from what I have watched, it's makes for, oddly enough, entertaining stuff. But I've watched him, and I feel like he's going through a bit of a midlife crisis. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and psychoanalyze Callendale. Maybe he can return the favor. No, I mean this all in good faith. This is all meant with love, Callendale. And the reason I bring it up is because I somewhat relate to what I see in his videos and what he speaks upon. Because again, having lost my significant other to whatever she's decided is greener on the other side there, has forced me to kind of re-examine who I am and my identity and what I'm about. And when you're with somebody for so long, initially you have this idea of who and what you are about, but if you're with somebody for so long, that kind of evaporates and it turns into this weird congealed mutual thing. You are now part of this other person, and what you're about is what they're about, and it gets all kind of complicated. But when that component is removed, you feel, I don't want to say empty, but you feel like you don't know like you got to regain your footing with stuff. And I've been dealing with that a little bit, and that may be part of why you see less of me on here. You know, there's a lot of things, in fact, that I'm trying to figure out again moving forward with this situation, and I've tried to make the best of it and look at it as positively as I can, as far as recovering from, well, I'm talking all kinds of crap, recovering from a failed relationship or the end of a relationship. You know, nothing lasts forever. I never expected us to necessarily meet and then also, you know, meet each other at the grave as well. I mean, nothing lasts forever. So it was a good run, but having been with somebody so long, it's hard to recalibrate yourself after that. So when I watch these Collindale videos, sometimes, you know, he's cutting his hair and he's dyeing his hair and he's doing this and he talks about, you know, oh, I go in on dancing night or whatever he does, and you know, I get it. I relate to that. You know, you're still trying to hang on to what you used to be about, but you realize you can't hold so tight to that stuff anymore because time is moving. You're not getting any younger. The things that were important to you or that you held dear, maybe you shouldn't hold so dear to yourself anymore. Or maybe you should. You know, who am I? I don't know. I could be wrong. But Collindale, yeah, I relate to you, brother. So there's that. Doing a bit of that soul searching myself here. So I don't know if you guys have noticed. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Cut a significant portion of the hair off. I think it used to be like down to here, and you know, it's probably a bad thing. I didn't do anything as drastic as Collindale did with the whatever he does, but it's just, I think for 2 weeks I was in shock after cutting so much hair off, and I showed the chick. I'm like, here, this is what I'm interested in, and like, I don't even know why I showed her a picture, because it's like she's blind or she just decided, yeah, the hell with your picture, and did what she wanted. But and then, you know, I used to have this beard, took that down. So, you know, we're going through changes. Change is good. Change can be healthy. Collindale, yeah, I admire the guy, right? Thank you, Vaughn, for the kind words. You know, I don't feel like I know a lot about Napoleonic stuff, but Napoleonic games, you know. There's plenty of folks out there that know way more when it comes to Napoleonic gaming than I do. Dash of Alon, he's doing great stuff. Check his channel out. That guy knows. He's doing more with Napoleonics than I am. And other people. The names escape me. I think there's Epic Fox tabletop guy, and I don't need to go through name after name after name, but suffice to say, thank you for the kind words, but there are plenty of other people out there that are way more qualified with the Napoleonic gaming stuff than I am. Are you a librarian, or did I dream that? Okay, I feel like I'm being interviewed now. Yeah, I mentioned that I'm a librarian. Now, I didn't go to, here's the thing, right? You can work at a library and not have to go to library school. And that's the thing. You go to library school for 2 years and get your master's degree in library sciences. I didn't do that. I have a bachelor's degree in religion. Well, that's where I stopped. I never went to graduate school. I didn't go get my master's in librarian stuff. So technically, I am not a librarian. I am a library associate. So no, if you want to take the literal form of the word librarian, I am not a librarian, although I work at a library. Well, shoot fire and save matches. I think I've rambled on long enough. Let's see, remember, it's the Swedish players that make your hockey in the U.S. Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's so many good Swedish players. And thank you for donating your Swedish players to us. I mean, maybe they should stick around and play in Sweden, but I'm glad they don't. I'm glad they come play in the NHL, for sure. All right, Vaughn, and 100 Decibels and the original OG. I think when I unboxed these miniatures and he saw the gray plastic sprues, he passed out and hit the floor. So let's hope OGs are all right. And all the rest of you, remember, to recap, you're going to send stuff, right, to hsgames@gmx.com. You're going to send stuff there because I tell you to. No, you're going to send stuff there and you're going to talk about yourself. And this is you guys' moment. You as subscribers, it's not necessarily about me just because it's my channel. You guys make this channel. So it's about you guys. Send stuff about yourselves to that. Send me emails, and I will specify the date so you don't miss it. Maybe I'll do it live. And share your skeletons in the closet. No, that's a joke. And I will post some stuff to help steer you guys in the right direction for those of you that need that help, and a date when I'm going to do this, and that's it. So thanks for watching, thanks for hanging out, thanks for listening to me carry on about a bunch of nonsense, and I'll talk to you guys next time. All right, have a good Saturday night.